in the flickering torchlight of a forgotten Inquisition dungeon. Deep beneath the stone floors of medieval Europe, there existed a device so insidious that screams were its enemy. It was designed not to draw blood for the crowd, but to destroy a woman from the inside slowly, silently, and completely. Known as the Pear of Anguish, this small, innocent-looking metal object could expand into a weapon of unimaginable internal devastation. Once inserted into the mouth rectum, or most cruelly the vagina, a simple turn of a key would force its segmented petals to bloom wider and wider, tearing flesh, rupturing organs, and shattering lives in absolute agony, without a single external wound visible to the world above. For centuries, history tried to bury this horror. Church records destroyed, survivor testimonies silenced, the pair dismissed as myth by those who couldn't bear the truth. But fragments remain: sketches and forbidden manuscripts, whispered confessions from torturers, and the broken bodies of women who somehow lived long enough to describe what no human should endure. Before I take you deeper into the darkness of how this device worked and the women it destroyed, I'd love to know, from which part of the world are you watching this tonight? Drop your country or city in the comments below. I read every single one. The Pear of Anguish was not large. In its closed form, it resembled a small, unripe fruit about the size of a fist, made of cold iron or brass, divided into four curved segments that met at a pointed tip. A screw mechanism ran through its center, connected to a key at the base. When turned, the segments slowly separated, forcing the pear to expand like a deadly flower inside the victim's body. The wider it opened, the more it tore. It was used almost exclusively on women, accused witches, blasphemers, adulteresses, abortionists, any woman whose words or actions threatened the patriarchal order found herself stripped, bound, and taken to the chamber where the pair waited. The Inquisitors preferred it because it left no visible scars for public display. A woman could be broken completely on the inside, yet appear untouched when paraded before a crowd or returned to her family as a warning. Damage was hidden, intimate, permanent. The process began with restraint. The woman was strapped to a wooden chair with her legs forced apart, or suspended by her wrists so her body hung helpless. A priest or inquisitor would read the charges while the executioner oiled the pear for smooth insertion. Then, without ceremony, it was pushed inside into the vagina for sexual crimes, the rectum for sodomy accusations, or the mouth for lying or heresy. Once lodged deep, the turning began. Each rotation of the key widened the device by millimeters. At first, the victim felt pressure as stretching that became burning. Then came the tearing. Delicate tissues split slowly, blood filling the cavity as muscles and ligaments gave way. The pain was unlike any external wound. It radiated deep inside, building with every breath. Women described it as being ripped apart from within, as if their own body had become the enemy. Survivors, and there were tragically few, spoke of hours of this gradual expansion. Inquisitors were patient. They turned the key, paused to ask questions, turned again. The pear could open to nearly the width of a man's fist. By that point, the cervix was shredded, the vaginal walls lacerated, internal organs displaced or punctured. Many bled out slowly from unseen wounds. Others survived only to live with permanent disfigurement, unable to walk, bear children, or control their bodies. One documented case from 16th century France tells of a woman named Marguerite, accused of witchcraft after miscarrying. The pear was used vaginally over to sessions. She confessed to everything within hours, but the questioning continued. When finally removed, the device was coated in blood and tissue. Marguerite lived another 3 days in agony before dying of internal bleeding. Her confession was read aloud in church as proof of justice. Another account from the Spanish Inquisition describes a Jewish converse named Isabel, punished for secretly practicing her faith. The pear was inserted orally first to silence her denials, expanding until her jaw dislocated and teeth cracked. Then, in a second session, it was used rectally. She survived, barely, but spent the rest of her life incontinent and in constant pain, a living warning to others. The device's true horror was its silence, unlike the rack or the wheel, which produced screams that echoed through the streets. The pair worked quietly. A woman could be destroyed in a soundproof chamber while the world above heard nothing. Her agony was private, intimate, known only to God and her torturers. If the stories so far have already unsettled you, hit the like button. It helps push this hidden history to more people who need to know the truth. The pair wasn't just a tool of pain. It was psychological warfare. Women knew what awaited them. The mere sight of it in the torture chamber was often enough to extract confessions. Many begged to be burned at the stake instead, preferring quick flames to the slow internal destruction. But mercy was rarely granted. Medical knowledge of the time made it worse. Doctors believed women's bodies were inherently sinful, their wombs the seat of hysteria and evil. Damaging that source was seen as cleansing. The pair targeted the very essence of womanhood: fertility, sexuality, voice, leaving survivors not just in pain, but stripped of identity. The psychological torment was as calculated as the physical. Inquisitors knew that the pair's slow expansion gave time for the mind to break long before the body did. Between turns of the key, they would whisper questions. Who else practiced witchcraft with you? Who did you lie with? Each refusal meant another rotation. Many women, desperate for the pain to stop, named innocent neighbors, friends, even family, fueling the witch hunts that consumed tens of thousands. The device spread rapidly across Europe in the 15th and 16th centuries. From the Spanish Inquisition to the German witch trials, from France to the Italian city-states, copies appeared in every major torture chamber. Some versions were larger, meant for rectal use on both men and women accused of sodomy. Others were smaller, delicate almost, designed specifically for the mouth to punish scolds or blasphemers. But the vaginal application remained the most common for female victims, a deliberate attack on their sexuality and reproductive power. In one chilling account from Bavaria in 1592, a midwife named Anna was accused of causing stillbirth through sorcery. The pair was used vaginally while she was strapped spread eagle to a table. The torturer turned the key 12 times over 3 hours, pausing only to record her confessions. When the device was finally withdrawn, Anna's lower body was a ruin. She lingered for 9 days, unable to eat or move, before dying from sepsis. Her confession led to 6 more arrests. The mechanics were brutally simple, yet ingeniously cruel. The pair's segments were curved outward, so expansion forced them against the most vulnerable tissues first. In vaginal use, the cervix bore the initial brunt, often rupturing early. As it widened, the walls of the vagina split lengthwise, creating deep lacerations that bled into the abdominal cavity. The bladder or rectum could be punctured, leading to fatal infections. Even if a woman survived the session, the internal scarring often caused lifelong fistulas, abnormal connections between organs, that left victims leaking urine or feces uncontrollably. A humiliation worse than death in that era. Oral use was no less devastating. Inserted into the mouth, the pair forced the jaws apart until they dislocated with an audible crack. Teeth shattered against the metal, the tongue was crushed, cheeks torn from within. One French record describes a woman whose lower face was permanently deformed. After the pair expanded to full width, her mouth frozen in a grotesque oval, unable to close or speak clearly. For the rest of her shortened life, rectal application, though used on both sexes, carried its own horrors for women. The delicate lining tore easily, causing massive internal bleeding. Peritonitis set in quickly as fecal matter entered the bloodstream. Death was almost certain, but not immediate. Victims suffered days of fever, bloating, and excruciating abdominal pain before succumbing. If this level of hidden brutality has shocked you, smash the like button right now. It tells the algorithm to show this truth to more people who deserve to know what really happened. Why was the pair so favored by inquisitors? Because it combined physical destruction with social control. A woman who survived carried her punishment forever inside her body. She could never bear children again, never experience intimacy without pain, never forget that her own flesh had been weaponized against her. Families receive these broken women back as living warnings. This is what happens when a woman steps out of line. The device's legacy extended beyond the torture chamber. Even after the Inquisition waned, the pair lived on in folklore and fear. Women whispered about it as the ultimate threat. In some regions, merely showing the device to a suspect was enough to extract a confession. Its power lay in what it promised: agony that no one else would ever see, suffering that left the victim utterly alone with her destruction. Actual surviving examples are rare, but a few remain in museums, cold, rusted, unassuming. One in the Museum of Torture in Prague shows were patterns consistent with repeated use. Another in Italy bears faint scratches on the screw, as if turned hundreds of times. Holding one in your hand, it feels deceptively light until you realize what those mechanisms were built to do. The Pear of Anguish wasn't the loudest torture device of its time. It didn't break bones for crowds to cheer, didn't burn flesh for public spectacle. Its horror was intimate, invisible, and absolute. It attacked the very core of a woman's body and being, leaving her alive just long enough to understand that no part of her was safe from the men who claimed to protect society from her kind. Centuries later, we still feel the echo of that silence, the way women's pain was hidden, minimized, dismissed. The pair reminds us how power can weaponize the most private parts of a person's existence, turning the body itself into a prison. If you've made it to the end of this darkness, drop a comment below. Which part of this story hit you the hardest? The slow turning, the hidden damage, or the fact that survivors had to live with it forever? Your comments fuel more videos like this. And if you want more uncensored history that most channels won't touch, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. I only release these when I am sure they'll reach the people brave enough